Hey, Hesty here. We got another quick video on changing the belt tensioner and the belt tensioner pulley on the 95.5 to 99.5 Jetta TDI motor, the AHU 1Z and the AHU motor. Don't let it confuse you that I've got that motor in a different car here. The process is the same no matter what car it is, and there were a few other VW models that had that same motor. I couldn't find anything on how to change it. Even my Bentley manual, which I highly recommend the Bentley manual if you're going to do any work on a TDI or any of your VWs for that matter. Not a very good description of it, so I'm going to do a quick video on how to do it and show you how simple it really is. This is for the belt that drives your generator or alternator, your alternator drive belt. And we're not talking about the timing belt. There is a tensioner pulley there too. Plenty of other videos out there that you can watch on YouTube how to change that. This is for the poly rib belt or the alternator belt pulley tensioner. Sometimes it's hard to know if you need to replace your pulley or not. The tensioner is a completely different unit than the pulley, and the pulley itself is probably going to run you $20-30 bucks. My opinion, while I had it all apart, I was going to go ahead and replace the pulley. And it turns out when I got the new one and compared the bearings, it was a good thing. So here's the old one that I took out. And I don't know if you can tell in the lighting here, but I've got a small detent there, which will put a little extra wear on the belt. And another little notch there. But the main thing is listening to the bearings. Now, it spins real freely, which is a good thing. You need freely spinning bearings, but I don't know if you can hear that. I can hear the bearings, which means that the lubrication is worn out, and it's a sealed bearing, so you can't just re-lube the bearings. So while this spins freely and it feels pretty good, turning over at engine RPM, 5,000 RPM per minute or so, that thing is going to scream. And that's probably where the squeaking was coming from that drove me into looking at this in the first place. So here's the new one, and it's nice and smooth all the way around, so it won't put any wear on my belt, because I'm replacing the belt while I'm at it. And it's almost silent. It's a brand new bearing, filled with a good grease, so while it doesn't spin over as fast, the bearings are well lubed, and there's no slop. If you grab the center spindle and try to wiggle it, there's no play. Whereas on the old one, I could feel a little clicking. You might be able to see the click in there. So there's some wear in those bearings. So good time to replace the pulley also. 30 bucks, but when you're all greasy and you got it all apart anyway, that's the time to do it. Here we are looking down into the engine bay in the right front corner of the car. Here's the alternator, timing belt cover. Some vehicles will have an air filter box right here, headlight in the front. First thing we need to do is take the tension off this pulley so we can get the belt out of the way, and then we can start monkeying with the tensioner. So I like a large pry bar, slide it in between the arm and the pulley itself, and lever the pressure up off the belt. I'm going to take this rubber seal out of the way so I don't dork it up. Make sure as you're pulling you're not yanking on a wire or a hose or something. Lever it up as far as you can go, and then either take the belt off the alternator pulley here or slip it around the tensioner pulley. Down, slowly let the pressure off, and now you've got your belt off and we're ready to work on getting that pulley out. And here's the arm that the tensioner pulley runs on, and I've got the faulty tensioner on there right now, and here's how you tell that it's bad. I can move this just with my bare hand. I don't have to use a screwdriver or a big pry bar for leverage. If it's really light spring pressure here, it's probably bad also. It should take a pretty good push with a screwdriver to be able to move this back and forth. Okay, so that pivot arm runs through this bracket across here, and there's the actual tensioner. Normally you can do this with the alternator here, but it's very hard to film it and show you. So that's what it looks like. Okay, and normally again the alternator is sitting right here in the way. To remove the old one, you need to remove 2 bolts here, one there, and one back there that are 5mm. And then, if I can get it here, and here's that 4mm bolt. It's a little bit tough to get down in here, and I actually had to start with a straight Allen key and then use my socket with Allen heads on it. But first, let me get those 3 bolts off. Okay, now that we have those 3 bolts out, this tensioner should slide right off that shaft. You may have to give it a little bit of persuasion on this surface to get it to knock off. So once you get that loosened up, and you tap it off by tapping on this surface here, it'll slide off and should fall right into your hand. There we go. So there's the old one off. And you can see there's flats of how that guy fits on there. And that's what puts the tension onto the arm that holds the pulley tight against the belt. So here we slide the new one on. Sorry, a little bit tough to do one-handed here. Slide it onto the shaft, make sure the shaft is pushed all the way in. And you'll know you got it on right if the holes line up here and here. This one back here. If it's backwards, the holes won't line up because these flanges are a little bit different lengths on each side. So now it's just a matter of putting our 3 bolts back in. This last bolt that goes back in here is the hardest one to get in, and I can't seem to get it on film of me putting it in. So let me try again here without blocking the view. To replace the pulley, all you have to do is screw out that 13mm bolt that you can see at the tip of my finger there. If you need a little help, there's a dust cover on the back side of the pulley that covers that flat surface there that you can fit a, I believe it's a 20mm wrench on there to hold it still while you torque that bolt in and out, and then simply bolt the new one on. It's just simply a matter of running that bolt out. Okay, I've put the alternator back in place, and now we're ready to put the belt back on. Same as when we were taking tension off. Stick a screwdriver or a pry bar of some kind between the arm and the pulley itself, and you can pull that back up out of the way. Make sure you got a good grip on it, and then pull the belt up. Work it up over the alternator pulley there. There we go. And then make sure. Okay, there we go. And I pushed off that seal. So let me pop that oil seal or that grease seal back on. And now, a little bit of something rubbing there. Make sure that the grooves are all good and the belt looks like it lines up with all the pulleys, and you're all set. After you got that pulley back on here, it's a good idea to look over all the pulleys and make sure that belt is running in between the grooves like it's supposed to here. Oops, sorry. Running on the back side of that pulley. And then we're going to check underneath the car. Let's see. To make sure the belt is running in the right grooves and running across this pulley. It all looks good. So I think we're done. Let's start it up and see. Okay, here we are with the run test. Let's have a look and see how it's doing. Belt's running nice and smooth. And you can see the tensioner and the pulley are running smooth and doing what they're supposed to. Belt's not slipping, no funny squeaks. Yeah, it sounds so much better than it did. Okay, one quick correction. I mentioned that it was a 4mm and a 5mm on the tensioner. It's actually a 5mm and a 6mm. I'm sorry about the error there. But as you're getting your tools together, it's a 5mm and a 6mm that you need. And I ended up using both a standard Allen key and a set that fits my sockets because it's a little bit tough to get in there. So you might need both in a 5 and a 6. Thanks for watching. Good luck with yours. If you have some good comments, or suggestions or a better way to do it, please put it in the comments box here on YouTube so the next guy can benefit from your knowledge. Appreciate you watching.